Hello, everyone. We're going to get started right away here, so just need to do a little bit of bookkeeping. First of all, please turn off your phones or silence them or whatever, so that we don't have any phones going off in the middle of the talk. We are recording, so nice to keep things clean. With that out of the way, I'm Clay John. I'm a technical director at W4 Games. I'm also a long-time Godot contributor and have a great love for the engine. I'm joined here by my friend Nicola, who is a co-CEO of W4 Games. And we're here to talk a little bit about Godot, W4 Games, and what we're doing to enhance the ecosystem for larger projects and to ensure that people working in the Godot ecosystem are ultimately successful with the things they're working on. So first off, I'm going to talk a little bit about what Godot is. Hopefully, if you're coming to this talk, you already know a little bit about Godot, but I'm going to give a broad coverage anyway, just to go over all kinds of things about the engine on a more technical side. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about why developers prefer Godot. And so, we've had the amazing opportunity over the last few years to hear from folks who have moved to Godot, either from other technologies or from other industries, and are just using it as their first game engine, or are moving from custom tech to Godot. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what we hear from those people, and then what we suspect from our side. Then I'm going to hand things over to Nicola, who's going to talk a little bit about the state of Godot adoption. There's some really fun numbers in there, so unless you've been tracking those numbers yourself, I think there's going to be some surprises in there that are going to make you all very happy. And then talk about some success stories, so some projects made in Godot that have been successful or are going to be successful. And then I'll talk a little bit about how W4 Games can help you and how we empower success in the ecosystem. So first of all, what is Godot? Again, I hope you know the answer to that, but if you don't, it's a 2D and 3D game engine. It's fully featured, it's very powerful, and it provides everything out of the box. So you have one executable, you load it up, and it's got all the tools you need to make a game. So that includes a script editor, it includes all kinds of tools for authoring your game content. And what sets Godot apart a little bit in the ecosystem right now is that it does have all that all-in-one kind of tool nature to it, but it's also free and open source and is developed by a community of people that just love the engine, they love making games, and they want to share that technology with everybody else. And so importantly, what that means is Godot is free, and it'll always be free because the people who are making it don't have an incentive to charge you anything, right? Ultimately, the people who are making its only incentive is to continue making it because they're using it and they want you to use it. And that's one of the things that makes Godot so amazing. And it makes it so much fun to be a part of that ecosystem. I've been contributing to Godot myself for over 8 years now, and I don't see any reason that I would stop anytime soon because it's just super fun and rewarding. And that's how all of us contributors feel. Now, on a more technical side, I said that Godot includes all of the tools out of the box. So what does that mean? Well, very importantly, we care about multi-platform support. So Godot supports a lot of platforms out of the box: Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, iOS, Web, Horizon OS, that's the Quest devices, so XR support, and consoles, Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation 5. So when you make your game with Godot, you develop on whatever platform you're using, and then you have support for all of these different places out of the box. And importantly, because the way Godot is designed, the Godot editor also runs on most of these platforms. Not quite all of them, but Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, Web, Horizon, and Horizon OS. And you can develop your games from those platforms, for those platforms, and others. It includes a full editor, and nicely, the editor is very small. It's lightweight. It's a single file. You download the file, you click on it, it runs. There's no installation. The download is very quick, even on limited bandwidth, and you're just up and running really fast. It also supports a lot more advanced features, things like navigation with dynamic obstacle avoidance, networking. It supports a few levels of networking depending on what you're familiar with. You might choose to drop right down to TCP, UDP, HTTP, or you might just work with WebSockets or something more high level like that. One thing that I'm personally really excited about and that really sets Godot apart is the full internationalization support. So if you use the editor, you can see we support a ton of different languages out of the box, and those are all community translations. There's a huge community of translators working on Weblate in order to translate everything in the engine. But even more importantly, Godot is the only engine with full right-to-left language support. And so that's extremely important for languages like Arabic and Hebrew, where when you use them from a traditional engine, you just can't use your own language, you know? And I think for a lot of us, that's something that's hard to understand because we just open up a computer and everything's in our language and we type it's in our language. But for a lot of developers, they go and they paste text, for example, into a text box, and it just doesn't work. And in Godot, we have full support for that broad range of languages, and it's something we pride ourselves on. Now, in terms of architecture from a user perspective, we expose what we call scenes and nodes. So, a scene is everything that is going on in your game at a given time, and nodes are the things that you compose scenes out of. And so you do that in a bit of a tree-like structure. So you can see on the right here, you have a root node, you have children nodes, and those kind of nest down within each other. And if you're somebody who's used a few engines or somebody who's a bit more technical, you might think, okay, that sounds great. That seems easy to use, but computers don't think like that. Computers don't like that sort of structure. Isn't this going to be horribly slow? And the answer is yes. If the entire engine was designed like this, it would be horribly slow and it would be very hard to make games. But Godot is built on top of what we call servers. So servers are modules within the engine that handle behavior for certain areas. So rendering or physics, they all live in servers, and servers use a data-oriented design infrastructure in order to be very fast. And so when you are making things with nodes and scenes, internally, Godot is just working with raw data. And it's able to process that data really quickly and do all of the heavy lifting really quickly. And then you're able to think in this paradigm of scenes and nodes. If you haven't used Godot, you're probably thinking, why does this guy keep saying scenes and nodes? That makes no sense. You really need to try it, because this architecture makes it so easy to reason about different things in your game. It makes it really easy to compose different behaviors in your game, and then you just don't have to think about it. And importantly, you don't have to think about performance. You get this really, really nice way of having things exposed while the performance concerns are tucked away under the table. Another major component of making games is scripting, of course, and we support a variety of scripting languages. Our favorite, of course, is GDScript. It's a language that we created specifically for Godot. That means it has a really tight integration with the engine, and importantly, it's designed for making games, right? This isn't a language that's designed for 100 different tasks and you happen to be making games with it. It's a language made by people who make games for people who make games. Now, importantly, it's not as fast as other languages. You'll hear us say a lot, well, that's not super important, because a lot of times your scripts are just doing simple things. You're calling into the engine, doing things in the engine, and the engine does the hard stuff. But sometimes you want to do things more advanced. Sometimes you're going to do heavy procedural generation or something like that. And when you're going to do that, there are times where you'll run into bottlenecks with GDScripts. So what do? Well, we expose other languages. One of those is C#. C# is also tightly coupled with the engine. You download the C# build of the engine, and you can just use it out of the box. We support .NET, so if you like to be on bleeding edge, you're welcome. We're there. And C# is just a very important language in the ecosystem. A lot of devs are more familiar with it, more comfortable working with it, very high performance, very easy to use, but it does come with some drawbacks, especially in Godot, where it's not as tightly coupled to the engine as GDScript. And then, of course, we have GD extension, which for a lot of you might seem like this magic voodoo phrase that you keep hearing repeated in dark corners of the Godot forums. But GD extension really is just a way of binding other languages to Godot. And then you can interface with the engine the same way you do with GDScript and C#. And importantly, it means that you can basically use any language as long as there's community binding. So C++, Rust, Go, Python, JavaScript. And you can get whatever kind of trade-off you want. If you want a really easy language and you're used to Python, then you can use Python for your game. If you want like absolute max performance, then you can use C++ or Rust or C directly. And those are all options that you have. Now, in terms of physics, recently we just added Jolt physics into the core of the engine in Godot 4.4, which we released this month. We're just as excited as you. Jolt Physics is amazing. It's the sort of project that we've been waiting for because designing and maintaining a physics engine is just as much work as designing and maintaining a game engine, and it requires a lot of specialized knowledge. And Jolt is open source. It's incredible. It's used in Horizon Forbidden West. It's proven in the industry, and the maintainer is just an incredible person. And so we have, or we originally exposed it as an extension, and now it's built right into the engine. So you can enable it out of the box, and it's really, really quite good, and we're very lucky to be able to use it. 3D rendering, another important area of the engine that we get asked about a lot. Technically, we support what's called a clustered forward renderer. It's technically a hybrid clustered forward renderer. We support things like real-time GI. It's a fairly modern renderer. It's not Unreal Engine. It's not the most modern thing in the world, but it takes advantage of a lot of modern techniques in order to be quite fast and quite flexible. And most importantly for us is that there's nothing carries over into user space where you have to worry about the renderer, right? You make your game and it just works, and you can use whichever renderer you want and it's just going to work. And we offer other renderers like a scalable low-end renderer that you can use for mobile devices and for web and things like that. But you can prototype your game in the compatibility renderer and then decide, you know what, I don't need to target web, so let's bump up the graphics. We'll switch to the Forward Plus renderer. We're going to turn on dynamic GI and all the other effects, and you can do that seamlessly. And finally, importantly, our renderers also work well on XR devices. So very easy to make your game on desktop for XR devices and trust that it's going to run well. So I want to talk a little bit about why developers prefer Godot. There's a few reasons, and I've tried to highlight them here. So one is the usability. An important part of Godot, I'm going to go into more detail about this later. An important part of Godot is it's really easy to use, but it's also ergonomic. So ease of use isn't just about learning something and then being able to use it quickly. It's also about having fun using it and not feeling like you're constantly fighting your tools. And so one of the things that Godot really promotes is a tight feedback cycle where you're testing, you're running your game, making changes, testing again, and that's really quick. Launching your game from the editor, super quick. Closing the editor, coming back in the editor, super quick. Making changes while your game is running, works out of the box, and that's really, really important to the dynamic of Godot, and it's something that we hear a lot of feedback about from people who have moved to Godot from other engines. Another one, a fun point, is using Godot, you de-risk your company from a single proprietary vendor. So that is part of being open source. But of course, there are things that you need that aren't provided by an open source project. And the nice thing about Godot is those things are provided by third parties who are in competition with each other to provide the best value for the services that they provide and for the money that you spend. There isn't a single monolithic entity that controls the prices and controls the deal, right? You can always have options. Another one, maybe too obvious, but there's no licensing costs with Godot. And finally, the freedom of license means that you don't have to just use Godot the way that it was intended to be used. You can take the source of Godot, do whatever you want with it. If you have technical people on your team, it's actually surprisingly easy to change Godot, either cut out features you don't want, add features you need, or even just streamline features so that certain things are faster because you don't need certain edge cases, for example. Well, let's talk a little bit more about usability. So as I was mentioning before, Godot is an all-in-one package, which means that you're not downloading, installing a bunch of things and maintaining different dependencies between different pieces of software. You just know that when you download it, you have everything you need and you can work. And for a lot of people, myself included, that is extremely attractive because I want to focus on what I'm working on. I don't want to focus on, okay, what version of this is doing this and how is this interacting with this. I just want to know that I can dive into whatever I'm doing, and that's something we hear from a lot of people. Talking about fast iteration, my apologies. Talking about fast iteration, we also have an integrated debugger, which means that when you run into an issue in your script, the engine notifies you of that right there in the editor, and you get that really nice feedback where, okay, this line has this problem, and it happened when I was at this point in the game. And that allows you to really quickly iterate because you go directly to where the problem is, you fix it, you run again, and everything is working. We also have a remote scene tree, which means you can make modifications to the game while it's running and see those changes reflected in the running game. And importantly, that scales to all of the potential test devices you can be using. If you're testing on a console, it's the same deal. If you're testing on mobile, it's the same deal. You plug in your device and you have that nice feedback iteration, you have the debugger, you have remote scene tree and everything. And so that makes it really, really nice to iterate on what you're working on. Second is freedom. So I wanted to go a bit more detail into how important it is to own your entire tech stack. For most users, this is more of a theoretical concern. You can be comfortable that the deal's not going to change on you. Nothing's going to impact whether or not you can actually ship your game. If Godot's working for you when you start production, it's going to continue working for you until you're done production. If the whole Godot project disappears and nobody contributes to it anymore, the worst case scenario is Godot doesn't continue to get better, but it's not going to get worse. And that's really, really important. But if you do have resources or you do have technical people, you also have complete freedom to do whatever you want with the engine, which means you can rip out the renderer and write your own render if that's something that your team's doing. Or if you're making a game that is heavily, heavily dependent on a certain type of physics interaction, and your team has expertise in physics interaction, and you don't want to write a renderer, you don't want to write an audio system, you don't want to write navigation, you can just focus on where your team's expertise is, modify the engine as much as you want, and then know that you own everything, right? You're not owning just one component of your game. You own the whole thing, but what you have brought is that one component. And we're seeing a lot of teams, especially teams with resources, that this is a major, major selling point for them. And to me, it makes total sense. Finally, technology costs. Like I said before, this one's a little bit obvious. You know, it's free, so that's great. It's free, and we all want to use the freest tool available. But Godot is more than just free, right? Because making a game just isn't just about the licensing costs. You know, there's support costs when you need more advanced support. There's cost for other services in the ecosystem. If you need somebody to port your game, if you need modifications to the engine, for example, all of those things are costs that you may or may not run into. And the nice thing about Godot is you can choose the amount of costs you incur, right? You're not fixed into one deal, which is you're paying this every year, you're paying this every month, or you're paying this amount of revenue share. You start from zero, and then you really get to pick and choose what you want. So if you want advanced premium support, you can pay for that, and you're going to have options for who you can pay for that, and then really tailor what you need to what you want to pay for, and what's valuable to you. Now, if you are making a version of the engine, or you're making modifications, you also have the option to upstream the changes that you make. Now, if you've never forked an open source project and you haven't worked much in open source, that might not seem like a huge value, and that might not seem like a cost-saving measure. If I'm giving you my code, how is that saving me money? But if you have maintained an open source project, and you have maintained a fork, you know that actually, if I give you the code, it saves me a lot of money, and that's just because Godot develops so fast, right? So if I make a modified version of Godot, and I focus on what I want, and I blink and I look back, all of a sudden I'm out of date. And Godot has gone light years ahead of me, because Godot gets developed so fast because there's so many people working on it. And then I have to go and somehow take all those changes back, merge them into the work I'm doing, and make sure that all the changes I made continue to work with those new changes. And there's no guarantee they do, right? And that can become very painful and very expensive very fast. And so if you're able to take the modification, maybe it makes the engine faster, maybe it adds a new feature, and you're able to bring that upstream, then you don't have to maintain that anymore. I mean, ideally, you would still maintain it upstream for the benefit of everybody, but you don't have to worry about pulling back all the other changes. All of that just gets simplified, and it benefits everybody. And I think, for me, that's part of the core of what makes Godot so great, is everybody is incentivized to do something that benefits everybody else, right? The best thing for you is also the best thing for everybody. And I think at the core, that feedback loop and that cycle is what makes Godot able to grow to where it is today. All right, so I'm going to hand things over to Nicola, who's going to talk a little bit about Godot adoption and a little bit about some successes in Godot. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicola. The blue robot is here, so we can continue, I guess. Thanks, Clay, for a great address to the technical part. I have a slightly different background. So I'm a co-founder and co-CEO. I serve as a co-CEO of W4 Games, which is a company supporting the Godot journey and the Godot growth. And what I'll try to add in terms of contribution to this talk today is a little bit of market context, right? Which is the market context in which we operate, and why is this an exciting time to look at it and to think about Godot? First of all, I think that one of the reasons why thousands of people are excited about gaming and GDC is so disruptive as one of the key events in the industry is because gaming is worth 25% of software, and that is huge. In this context here, Godot is one of the fastest gaming technologies. And there are really interesting data to back this. As you can see, in the last 3 years, Godot has been growing much faster than big companies like Unity and Unreal, for example. And this growth is mainly due to the fact that there is a huge community and there are compelling features behind that. The growth is at least 50% year over year. And I'm talking about, as a proxy, as a data point, number of games published on Steam. Just look at that for a second. Why is Godot growing in that trend? Well, some key drivers that we have identified and that we are thinking are playing a very important role. First of all, Godot is beloved by the community and by young game developers. This is very interesting because if you look at the future from now on, considering that Godot is about 10 years old, it has been published around 2014, so we're talking about a decade of maturity out in the market. The young game developers of today will be the opinion leaders of tomorrow. And that is exciting because we are experiencing a generational change in terms of game tech stack. If we take GMTK, one of the most interesting global game jam data and point of view that we have, we are seeing that Godot is really becoming a preferred technology by that target group. If we look at number of projects published in itch.io, I don't have a precise number, but that was on my homework. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it right. But it's really compelling. So we are seeing that the new generation of game developers is embracing Godot as their preferred tech stack. How big is Godot? Well, a few days ago, GDC as an organization published the state of the industry, which means primarily GDC respondent gave some feedback about the industry use of Godot. And as you can see, you have 30% Unity, 30% Unreal, two dominant technologies in this space. As we know, they are mature, older than Godot. They're pretty much connected with the industry. But for the first year, we have Godot appearing in the list with the 4% estimated in the industry. In reality, if we look at, again, the group, the target group of indies and young developers, this percentage can be raised a lot. Now, the good thing is that if we look at the progression of Godot, we can estimate that this number can grow 10x by 2030, so in a relatively short period of time. The generational change that I've mentioned before can happen in the next 5 to 6 years, and we can be the drivers of this. How is Godot growing? Well, again, some snapshots here about the change that just in 2 years we have seen, 24 versus 23. As you can see, both in Steam and at GMTK level, there is a huge and compelling growth of Godot preference. If we look at Steam, the trajectory is exponential trajectory. If again, we project this number at the same rate for the next 5 years, we will have close to 5,000 games shipped in Godot. And again, if we look at the annual growth, this is really compelling. There is a lot of room to grow for Godot, which has been by design a technology started by solo developers, hobbyists, indies, and is now maturing in terms of outcomes. I will show you in a while why I mean that. There is a great retention rate. Whoever, as far as we can hear from the community, whoever is moving to Godot is likely to stay for a long, long time, hopefully forever. This retention rate is because the technology is beloved, but also the community is really supportive. Few interesting numbers about who uses Godot engine. Again, very compelling. Godot is steadily among the top 10 open source software projects with titans in this space. The community, if we look, for example, at Reddit and Discord, is really growing fast. And in terms of daily active users, monthly active users, numbers are getting really towards the 7 figures at monthly level. Downloads and install is really growing fast. But one thing that is very interesting is that GDScript is used by the 3% of developers at all scale, at software scale. Now, of course, we want to learn from success stories, right? We have tried to distill a few examples that we feel can be compelling. But before looking at that, again, a couple of numbers at market level. A couple of years ago, we had 2-3 games shipped in Godot, making more than $1 million, taking $1 million as this kind of bar, right? Last year, we had 25 games making more than $1 million. We're talking about at least 5x year over year. And last year, compounding the revenue generation of Godot games, we have landed in the 100 million space. Again, if we project this at the same rate from now to 2030, it will be a $1 billion range. So why is this important? That's interesting because, in my opinion at least, The more the community growth in terms of monetization and success, the more it can give back to the project, the more it can strengthen, and the more it can inspire as role model for the young generation of game developers using Godot. So it's happening again. We are experiencing, on top of the rise of the indie community, we are experiencing interesting examples and industry signals that there is a migration or a transition in progress. So Godot is not just trusted by the indie community and by the hobbyists, but it's getting a trusted technology by more sophisticated game developers. You probably know Second Dinner. They did Marvel Snap, a big hit, a big success. And they are now working with us and working in Godot. The same happened with Megacrit, who basically is shipping Slay the Spire 2, at least they said this, in Godot. Pistol Shrimp, Robo Gentleman, porting a whole catalog from Unity to Godot. These are interesting signs about the industry and the more sophisticated level of developers, paving the way for a generational change and the switch in terms of rebalancing and giving open source game engine an opportunity to be at par or at least a super viable choice for developing a compelling, successful game. I want also to mention, and we are lucky enough because we have also Eric here in the room, who I really thank for the support. There are a couple of projects that we would like to highlight, and they pretty much had really a boost in the last 12 months, thanks to a collaboration, an industry open source collaboration happening, and converging towards something really magic. So Godot has just become a world-class citizen into a very compelling XR platform, which is MetaQuest. And this is exciting because there is a strong need to provide state-of-the-art opportunity for the community to explore areas of game developments like XR, which are niche in brackets, but can express a lot of power and a lot of opportunity. We are seeing a lot of traction from the announcement that we have done and from the opportunity, as we read from one of the comments. The release of the Godot official SDK just happened, but we have seen very interesting numbers for the first few weeks in terms of download, in terms of time spent in the making. And one interesting thing that I read, we were commenting just a few days ago, was you can edit your game live from the Meta headset. It's like editing reality. I really was surprised by this quote by a user. It's like editing reality. So the level of engagement and the compelling solution towards this specific space can be huge. Another interesting example I've mentioned before, but we have started a very important collaboration in the mobile capability space of Godot with a big title. We are expecting this title to be the biggest title ever shipped mobile first in Godot with Second Dinner. They are doing an amazing job. They are proving and again paving the way that Godot not only is a desktop first or a PC first kind of game tech, but it's opening up to mobile capabilities quite a lot. And it's enriching the opportunity of attracting more and more interesting developers. Now, why W4 exists? We think that the inflection point, so the point in which Godot will become recognized as one of the best technologies in the market, is close. The reason why we exist is accelerate the way to this inflection point. What does it mean? Well, it means trying to do three things in particular. First thing is remove roadblocks. Remove anything we can for developers to develop in Godot and ship successful projects. One example is W for console. We released console ports for the three most important platforms, Switch, Xbox, and PS5. And basically, this was, again, an effort to provide the commercial ports certified at the highest level possible at one click of distance from your PC game to your console export. W4 is building tooling, is building software packages or products on top of Godot for mainly enterprise use to remove roadblocks, de-risk the use of Godot at bigger scale, and help customer success. This is why we exist. There are a few interesting examples. We have been starting working mainly in the gaming space with great companies. We have been starting shipping products. W4 Console is shipped. W4 Cloud will be shipped in days. And W4 Build, will be shipped in days. I'll tell you more about that. And W4 Cloud is ready for use at enterprise level. So these are the first three components coming out of our R&D, because primarily Godot needs quite a lot of R&D around to keep on making it compelling on the long term. Companies like W4 are here to make it happen and to try to give the best to make it happen. I was mentioning briefly W4 Build. We feel W4 Build, a CDCI solution optimized for Godot, can provide a very interesting and compelling add-on, both for indies and for more and for bigger developers, thanks to the fact that it's versatile, it's optimized for Godot, and it can provide a lot of great features. We have got almost 100 developers in the early access phase, and we are now ready to put it live in production stage. So stay tuned if you are making a Godot game, or if you want to know more about the solution, stay tuned and get in touch with us for that. The same is for W4 Console. It's available. We have shipped Switch and Xbox. We have launched the Switch and Xbox last October during GodotCon in Europe. PlayStation 5 is also being shipped while we speak, and that is a compelling solution. Consider that out of $300 billion of gaming value of business per year, the 70% of this value is a niche called games and services, and the 25% of games and services is console business. So we're talking about a 50 billion plus console value per year. You can imagine where Godot came from. It's a fantastic story, a poem that Samuel Beckett, an amazing author from Ireland, gave us, in which Vladimir and Estragon are waiting for this person to come, Godot. Well, I have a good news for you. We don't need to wait Godot, because Godot, it's already here. It is one click away from you. You can download, and we are here to help. Thanks a lot.
We have a few minutes to go do some Q&A. If people have questions, we've got mics here and here. You can line up and go ahead. I've got one over here.
Are there roles now or potentially in the future that are something like developer relations roles or anything like that at Godot?
So the question is, are there developer relations roles at Godot? Right now, no. I can't speak about the future. In the near future, also no, but long-term, potentially. The Godot Foundation is a very lean and mean organization. We've got about 12 or 13 people total, and almost all of them are engine developers. And because our funding is quite limited, it's all donation-based, almost everything just goes into more developers. But as funding increases and as the ecosystem changes, that may change in the future. I'll take one from over here.
So, as somebody who actually does work with virtual reality and has for a long time been using Unreal Engine, especially as a student in virtual reality at Ringling College of Art and Design, something that I'm curious about is because I did see the update for the release of the Godot XR tools. I'm wondering where does the Godot team see the future of game development or development using XR and VR tools, especially as the engine continues to update and improve.
Yeah, so the question is, where does the Godot team see the development of XR tools, especially as Godot becomes more advanced on those platforms? Now, we have a lead XR developer, and I don't want to speak for him because I will say something that he disagrees with, I'm sure. So I'll speak for myself in this, and I think I highlighted pretty strongly that I think tight feedback loops and I think rapid iteration are incredibly powerful tools that Godot offers. And I think that's one of the driving forces behind the XR editor, right? If you can edit your game, you can test your game, and you can do that without taking your headset off, and ideally do that in a comfortable place and have the absolute tightest feedback loop, I think that's where we're going to see the most value. So I would love to see development move towards that, but I'll be cautious in what I say. I won't say that's where the team sees it going, but that's something that I personally am quite excited about and would love to see. I'll take another one over here on the right.
Hey, great talk, by the way. Thank you. I have just one little question. Uh, Earlier in the technical presentation, you mentioned something about C#'s caveats. Now, I've heard something's around that online, but if you could shed some light on what that might entail from the Godot team's eyes, or what you guys have in mind, what do you want to fix? How do you view that particular point? Thank you.
Right. So the question is, I mentioned that there are caveats to using C# and some pain points, and so what are those, and what's our plan for that? I'm a rendering developer and not a C# developer, so my knowledge is a bit general. But really, right now, the problem with C# is it lacks the tight engine integration that we have with GDScript. Right? GDScript is built for and with the engine in mind, whereas C# has a lot of different tools that don't necessarily mesh with the similar tools that we expose through Godot, which means that at best you have a translation layer. At worst, you have tools in C# that just don't really work with Godot stuff. So the long-term plan actually for C# is to offer it as a GD extension. And GD extension has a integration system that's really, really nice, really, really tight, and at this point would allow C# to be more tightly integrated with the engine. But also what we're seeing now is a lot of the growth of GDScript is informed by choices made for C#. More of a feature parity, which means that more things in the engine are going to work tighter with C#. I won't speak for the C# team because they have lots of plans, and I want to be cautious not to step on their toes, but you can expect to see a lot of developments in that area. Take another one on the left.
You're never going to believe this, but that was quite literally the exact question I was going to ask. Great response. Love the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe we'll do another one on the left then.
Yeah, hey, so I have a couple of questions. One is about web GPU and the other one is machine learning. So just for some context, we are an independent tools and research studio, and we are building a content and behavior generation framework. Our plan was to use Unity and then web GPU. Our target platforms are PC, VR, and then web, but lightweight, indeed, to double A kind of games. But we are considering switching the entire thing to Godot. So the question was, you mentioned web. Do you have any plans for web GPU? And second question, just
We'll take one at a time.
Sure.
The question is, do we have any plans for web GPU? And yes, yep. Web GPU is the future of GPU APIs on the web, and we'll support it eventually for sure.
Any rough estimates, if at all, like by when?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
No, by when? Do you have any rough estimate?
Time estimate. The question is there any time estimates? No. It'll be ready when it's ready.
Okay. And the second question was about machine learning, especially because it supports Python and the machine learning ecosystem is almost like heavily Python. Do you have any plans of utilizing that?
Yeah, I think I actually mentioned in the talk. So the question is, do we have plans to implement Python? You can use Python with Godot through a GD extension.
My question was specific to machine learning.
Can you use Python for machine learning in Godot? Is that the question?
Yes.
Through an extension, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'll take another question on the right.
Hi. First of all, I just want to say and congratulate your team on completing 4.4. I'm sure that was intentional right before GDC. It's amazing. It's one of your best updates, in my opinion. I'm very happy with everything that's on there. It's blowing my mind what you guys do. But anyways, my question for you is more of an open-ended one. I'm very curious. Is there anything that you're excited for the future of Godot as far as possible things 4.4 and beyond?
The question is there anything that I'm excited for in 4.4 and beyond? Absolutely. As a technical engineering-brained person, I'm most excited about the things that I'm working on right now, which are a whole host of performance improvements. And I'm not the only person. There are a few of us that are working quite hard on improving performance right now. So for me, that's the most exciting thing. And luckily, a lot of that's going to come in 4.5, which is the next release, which we hope to release this summer. But there are so many things we have planned. On the website, we have what we call the Godot priorities page, which is really just a collection of things that contributors are excited about. So I would go there, take a read through. We lay out all our ideas and information about them, and check it out. But for me, it's performance. I love performance.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. On the left here.
Hello, I'm an indie dev, and I currently use Unity, but I'm strongly considering moving over to Godot. And I'm a big fan of open source. I use Blender for basically everything 3D modeling. And I was wondering, I went to their conference last October, and their metrics of adoption are very similar. I mean, their core values and what they talk about, it's very similar. And I was just wondering if there's I don't know because I don't currently use Godot, but what's the symbiosis there? Because you guys are doing the same thing, just different ideas, game engine and 3D modeling tool. Is there any do you work with Blender Foundation at all, et cetera?
Yes, the question is what's the symbiosis between the Godot project and the Blender project? We're very close. Yeah, a lot of friendships across projects, a lot of communication across projects. I mean, the fact that we formed the Godot Foundation in the Netherlands was no coincidence. Blender Foundation is in the Netherlands, and we wanted to be close to them. But there's a lot of communication across teams, and in fact, Blender Studio's next project, Project Dog Walk, is a game made in Godot.
Awesome.
So a lot of symbiosis there, and we really try to follow in their footsteps, and they've been gracious enough to help us along the way.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Another one on the right, and I think we have time for maybe one or two more.
Hi, I'm a game designer, and I've been working with Godot for a few years now. And I'm just wondering if you guys have any plans to have ways to connect developers and studios that are looking for Godot devs. It's with the relatively new adoption of it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, do we as a project have plans to connect developers and studios looking for developers? Yeah. Actually, we're working on, I think we have a pretty good draft idea, and we're planning on making a job board. And that would both be useful for people looking for work, people looking to hire people, but then also for people that are offering products and services in the ecosystem in order to get the word out. So that way, if you're looking to pay somebody to fix a bug that's just not getting fixed by the community, you'd be able to find somebody to do that. Or if you're looking for a job, you'd be able to find job postings there too.
Awesome.
So it's something on our radar, but after the asset store.
Got it. Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. On the left?
Hi, I run the Seattle Blender user group, and I really liked your slide about how Godot's having its Blender moment, because about 2 years ago, I felt that same way, and I started a Seattle Godot group. I got two things. First, I'm a big believer in community and finding your local people. So can everyone say the city they're from?
San Diego.
Seattle. Dublin. All right. Well, hopefully you heard somebody say the same city, so get together. And then second off, how do we get our group on the website for user groups?
You can. Oh, so the question is, how do we get a user group onto the website? Contact at godotengine.org.
Okay. Yeah, but they haven't gotten back.
Okay, send another email. I'll make sure someone gets back.
Okay, thanks. If you're in Seattle, come talk.
I think we're out of time, everybody. So thank you very much for the questions. Please remember to fill out the survey at the end of the